Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review for the final episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which wound up actually being titled One World, One Piece. One World, One People. I called that one right at the end of the review as kind of like of my last review as kind of a throwaway, like, oh, I should actually try and like figure out what the last one's going to be. I'm glad I got that one right. Some other folks are saying that like maybe Captain America might be the name of the episode, which we'll come back around to. But I was very happy with myself that I actually managed to get that one right. I thought that was kind of a cute thing to have there. Also, prior to getting into this episode, I realized darkly, like, oh no, Sam is going to be like the only character in this entire show who's going into this finale without superpowers. I guess the super serum in particular was like, this is going to be a bit of a rough ride for him. But yeah, so today we got the sixth and final episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I will say the pacing of this episode was very strange to me. This is actually a great example of what I talked about in the last review, where it does kind of feel like one large movie that got broken up into exact chunks as opposed to... I don't know. I feel like with WandaVision, they had a specific goal with each episode, and they changed the size of the episode to suit that goal. This one, every episode is around 50 to 53 minutes long, and there are times where the pacing feels weird, and this is a good example because we start the episode in New York. The Flag Smashers have hacked the GRC meeting, and Sam and Bucky are en route. They call it Sam. Was it Bucky that called in a favor? Sam called in a favor, and Sharon is there as well. And right away, it's kind of weird because like one of the first things we see is Sam arrive on the scene in a new flight suit, which would have been the gift he got from the Wakandans. A flight suit that has the Captain America like insignias and stuff on it. So he's got the stars and stripes, all of this, which is interesting because like I could see why, especially given how the plot of Black Panther revolved around a villain who was it Eric Stevens, I think, Killmonger, who grew up in essentially in Oakland in near poverty. It seemed like he was doing like his dad was doing okay-ish, but they were in like the projects in Oakland, and you can see kind of connections from there where like, all right, so let's have Sam, like let's reinforce Sam being Captain America, give him the stars and stripes, and make it like his own kind of thing. It just was interesting that's like Wakanda doing a Captain America suit, but regardless, he shows up in a Captain America suit and like very immediately is like, I'm Captain America. Like, it's interesting because on the one hand, you get the feeling that he's going to eventually take the mantle and claim the title. It's just like pacing wise in the episode, it's like, all right, here we go. Let's start the episode. Oh, that would have been a really big moment if it came. Like if episodes 5 and 6 were one big episode, like 1 hour and a half-ish long super episode, having this be the start of Act 3 where it's like, all right, everything really sucks, but, you know, I'm training, I'm going to come at this, and then, boom, I'm Captain America. This one is just kind of like, all right, episode starts, Captain America. Okay, all right. It just felt like early into the conflict of the episode, I guess, but also the whole episode feels like it's what really needed to happen if they were splitting these episodes in a way that was more meaningful to the overall plot as opposed to making 6 50-ish minute episodes. Episode 4, we would have had the hashtag decap, and then we would have had that little epilogue denouement of them confronting and beating Walker and taking the shield from him. Episode 5 would have been the aftermath of that fight, the kind of like calm before the storm, the training out in the woods, and then the Flag Smashers attack the GRC, and that's where Sam comes in. He's Cap. He's got the suit. He's got the shield. It just feels like Episode 5 is wrapped entirely around the notion of what everyone individually thinks of the shield, like what it means to them and the imagery of it. So, like, I get that from, like, an episodic standpoint, but it doesn't feel like it services the whole plot as well as it would have if, like, if episodes 4 and 5, 4 and 6, I guess, 5 would become part of 4 and part of the new 5, if those were beefier to kind of like complete the thought of each of those. But I don't know. Especially actually since the aftermath of the fight, the aftermath of #decap, that fight didn't have a huge amount to do with what the Shield meant to Walker any more than it did the rest of episode 4. So I could see the entirety of episode 5 and this episode all coming down to like what Captain America means as a symbol and what the Shield means as a symbol. So like, yeah, no, I think episode 5 would have made more sense with the first third being part of a slightly longer episode 4. So make that one like, ignoring credits and stuff, make it like, 55, 60 minutes, and then put the rest with episode 6, make that like 65 minutes, 70 minutes, something. I mean, I guess there's more, again, cutting out credits and things, so it's kind of like hard to do the math on this on the fly because I don't know how large the episodes were, so maybe it's more like 75, 80 minutes. But it's also meant to be a big finale, and also, and we'll get to this, again, the pacing is weird, so like the last like 15, 20 minutes of this episode are all the coda of the whole thing. So it's kind of strange, but that's a roundabout way of saying Sam basically starts the episode as Captain America. He's taken on the mantle for real. Carly has a phone brought to Bucky at one point, and they have a discussion about like fighting for something bigger than yourself. And Bucky's like, "Yeah, I've done that before, and I've lost twice." And like, it's an interesting conversation, but it's a little on the nose. Like it's a little, I don't know. It's being discussed in a way. There's actually one of my other problems with this episode is that the dialogue is a tiny bit more on the nose than I think that they really wanted to aim for. Like there's room for nuance. I feel like they came at it a little bluntly, but though maybe that was the goal, is to kind of come at it with a cudgel a little bit. Is that the term? I don't actually know if that's that might be too negative a term. They're coming at it very bluntly with some of the stuff. So a lot of the dialogue is a little like, here it is. Here's the statement that we're making without without coming at it with any subtext, I guess. So it's like, oh, have you ever fought for something bigger than yourself? And it's just like, okay, this is where everyone is going to lean into the like, yeah, what do you know? Oh, well, I know a lot. I also I changed the background of the screen that I'm looking at, so it's less distracting my glasses, but also the lights that are on me. There's no avoiding that, unfortunately. So anyway, we have Batroc finally gets his fight with Sam that he wants. It's a pretty direct mirror to the fight at the beginning of Captain America: Winter Soldier, where they're fighting on board the was it the Lemurian Star? Is it Lemurian? I think it's Lemurian. Or Lemurian. I'm not entirely sure. I think they've shown and said both at this point. But it's a decent fight, but it's not shot as well, in my opinion, as the Winter Soldier movie fight. I think that's because that movie definitely went for more long shots of the physical stunts, whereas this one does a lot of really quick cutaway stuff, a little bit more Jason Bourne. Which is fine. Like the fight's not bad, but it's admittedly a little less impressive when the shots are so quick and choppy like that. I would have liked to see a little bit more long shots of like kind of more intricate maneuvers and things. But again, Sam is doing this without a super soldier serum, so he's keeping up with Batroc, whereas Steve at least threw down his shield, but he also still had the super serum, so he like was coming at this with an advantage from the get-go. But it was a nice mirror to that. I thought that was kind of cool. Sam eventually leaves the battle. He doesn't even bother finishing with Batroc because he's chasing after a chopper that's got kidnapped GRC committee members in it. And it's just kind of like the chopper does this like vertical dive and pull up thing. And I'm just like, one, there's no chance that a chopper is ever going to outmaneuver Sam in his wingsuit, like ever. Also, it was such an odd moment because it reminded me, and this is the weirdest thing to think of, it reminded me of the Godzilla movie from 1998, where I'm just like, man, I'll admit, I don't know a ton about helicopters and like, all of this, but like, I feel like there's no way a chopper is ever going to be this maneuverable, especially in a city. And also, helicopters, like, I know just a tiny enough amount to like maybe have a thought here, but like, so helicopters, part of the reason they have two rotor blades set perpendicularly from each other is that you've got your main one that keeps you afloat, aloft, I guess. And then the other one that's going sideways on the tail is for stability. It's meant to keep you from just kind of, like spinning and careening to your death. Generally speaking, helicopters don't love a huge amount of this or this because of the way that rotational physics and angular momentum and all of those things work. So the reason that the helicopter blades work so well, I'm gonna get the rule wrong. There's a left hand and right hand rule. One of them has to do with angular momentum, and the other one has to do with electromagnetism. That one's more confusing to me. It has to do with like how whatever. The angular momentum one, I'm gonna just guess, probably incorrectly, that it's right hand rule for angular momentum. The idea is that when things, if you curl your hand, if you go whoop, the direction that your fingers curl in, when you rotate anything in that direction, it has momentum in the direction of your thumb. So if you're spinning this way, you're using your momentum to do this, which is useful because you're counteracting gravity, which points down. If you suddenly dive, this goes like this. And now you're pushing this way. You're not counteracting gravity. And like, you could probably do a dive, but like, man, coming back from that is going to be difficult. I'm gonna throw out a guess and say it's probably not super possible, especially in a city. It's just like, it's weird watching a helicopter move like that, where it's just like, that doesn't seem like that's gonna work like ever, basically. It was just such a, like, it just kind of jumped out at me so much where it was like, whoa, I haven't seen questionable helicopter physics like that in, 23 years, I guess. Engineers out there, please, mechanical engineers, aerospace engineers, maybe, I don't know, please correct me if I'm like super off on this. It just feels like once a helicopter, because like part of the thing is when a helicopter starts to tip, there's only so much they can tip before it really starts to like fuck up. Like once you get to around here, you're now having like a bunch of weird directional forces all going at the same time. You'll kind of like it almost like pulls it sideways. So if you go like this, it's going to like pull you out and like roll you at that point. I don't feel like it's going to be very easy to controllably go vertical and then come back up and continue on. Like that doesn't seem possible to me, but please feel free to correct me. It's been quite a while since I've taken a physics course dealing with angular momentum. So happy to be corrected on that. Anyway, Sam has Red Wing back, and he's taking a more tactical approach. Like, he's been a little bit of generally kind of tactically minded overall, but in here he's like, all right, Red Wing, go see if any of the hostages have flight experience. And they do, and they find someone who's a member of the Philippines Air Force, the PAF, and he's able to coordinate with her to be able to like, all right, he sends her a message because he's able to find her identity, and then is able to like track her phone basically, and is like, hey, count to 5. When you get to 1, grab the controls, and he like throws the shield to break the window, and then he dives through and like knocks the dude out of the chopper, and she grabs the controls. Like, it's a nice little tactical moment, and it definitely shows Sam using his natural abilities and kind of stepping into the role of Captain America, who traditionally through Steve has been very tactically minded. And it's like, all right, here is the plan. Even more so, like, it's interesting because Steve, as a member of the original Avengers, at the very least compared to, so it's easy to look at the Avengers as either being, as of the OG Avengers, as being like, now it's the 6 of them, but at the time in the movies it was like, okay, it's really the 4 of them plus also Hawkeye and Black Widow are there. Eventually Hawkeye and Black Widow were kind of elevated up to that same OG status because they were part of the original 6. But in the movie itself, when it came out in 2012, it was like, you got Iron Man, you've got the Hulk, you've got Thor, you've got Cap. Cap was by far the least like versatile of the 4, where you've got, Tony Stark, who's got crazy weapons and can use his suits to fly. You've got Thor, who's incredibly strong and can use his hammer to fly. You've got the Hulk, who is even stronger and can essentially jump so hard he flies. And you got Steve, who is very strong. So Steve, out of the original 4, felt not like outclassed by any stretch, but he definitely was like, he was the thinker because he didn't have the either innate abilities or the crafted abilities to be like flying through the air shooting lasers at people, like, or punching through giant space whales or electrocuting 100 people, like 100 aliens at a time. So he was kind of the planner here. And now we've got Sam, who is in a similar boat and also doesn't even have the super serum. So he's doubly got to think with his head to be able to get shit done. So it's nice to see that kind of transition over to Sam, like, stepping into that tactical role of like, all right, we got a plan, we got to think through this. And he uses his head a lot in this episode. It feels like, in fact, later on, he even is explicitly like, I'm not going to fight you. Like, he's trying to talk to them. He's trying to appeal to something in them to get the fighting to stop, as opposed to just, punching and shooting through everything. You see that Carly is starting to slip. She's definitely losing her grip at this point. I think, like, she already was kind of losing it a bit in previous episodes as she saw the Flag Smashers as becoming weakened through their repeated encounters with Sam and Bucky and Walker and Lamar. She's visibly like, she doesn't care if she dies. She doesn't care if the Flag Smashers die. She doesn't care if the hostages die, because now it's about the message. Like, the message is the most important thing, and whoever dies, oh well, that's just necessary, collateral to the message and the goal and all of that. So she's definitely slipping hard, and quickly losing a lot of her sympathetic qualities as a result. Because early in the show, our first exposure to the Flag Smashers was that they were this like weird terror organization, faceless thing. But we started to learn more about Carly and her group and all of them, where it's like, okay, they're fighting for a cause. They're trying to send a message more than they are trying to kill anybody. But over time, again, she's like losing that ability to stay calm and losing that ability to deliver her message without causing harm and causing pain and death. So she's losing those sympathetic qualities very quickly. And unfortunately, it seems like she's losing them too quickly for Sam to be able to catch her. There is Walker turns up. I thought I had a note about what was going on before this. So Bucky, so I had mentioned that there were hostages from the GRC in the helicopter. The Flag Smashers have infiltrated, or at least a Flag Smasher has infiltrated the NYPD and loads up all of the GRC members into 2 police vans as well, and then puts like a thing on it that like clamps the doors and keeps them from being open. It's like a super lock to the point where even Bucky is having trouble getting rid of it later. So Bucky shows up on the motorcycle. He's fighting off Flag Smashers, and Carly is like, you need to do something that that's going to distract him, like give him someone to save. So basically she's aware that Bucky is becoming more concerned with human life over the fight, which is something that she's going the opposite direction of. Carly actually provides the best foil for Bucky in this entire show, whereas Walker is the best foil for Sam. In both cases, Sam and Bucky and Walker and Carly are moving in kind of exact opposite directions in terms of their evolution and their thought process and their priorities and just kind of how they walk through a situation. And so the Flag Smashers like set fire to one of the vans. So Bucky like disengages with the Flag Smasher that he's fighting and works on the van, where as this is going on, Walker shows up. He's got his shield, and I was like, hey, he throws it and it doesn't completely collapse on itself the moment that he throws it. That's better than I thought it was going to do. And then Carly punches it and it puts a huge dent in it. It's just like, oh, okay, well, all right. It lasted for a little while. he does keep it, I think, for just about the whole episode. There's a nice little moment where we get to see where it's done for good. Bucky uses his evil arm for good. He uses the mechanical arm that he never thinks to use first to pry the like crazy lock thing off the door, but it takes a second, but he gets there. Someone pointed out on Twitter yesterday, it was really interesting that's like we've actually seen through careful directorial choices that Bucky that Bucky is right-handed and doesn't think to use his left metallic arm, vibranium arm now, to do things. Every time he is the Winter Soldier, he uses his left arm first. He uses it to shoot, he uses it to punch, he uses it to pull stuff off. In the Winter Soldier, in Civil War, in the prologue for him here in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's using his left arm first. In the show, he's using his right arm first for everything, including shooting guns. So when he's the Winter Soldier, he shoots with his left hand, and when he's Bucky, he shoots with his right hand. It's an interesting little bit there. I think everything else you could see as being like, okay, that's kind of circumstantial and whatever, but the fact that he shoots a gun with a different arm. There's also a shot of him in, I want to say, Infinity War, where he's no longer the Winter Soldier, he's Bucky, and he's shooting with his right arm again there too. So this is a consistent thing outside of the show as well. So I think that was a nice touch that they worked with that. Walker gets surrounded by flag smashers, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him. He doesn't seem like he's hurting all that bad because he's got his shield, but it's interesting that on the back of his shield, right in front of his face, is where the Medal of Honor star goes. And I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think it's a combination of, one, remember you've been through worse than this. It's also there maybe to kind of give him that like that extra boost of like, come on, you can like push through. And also in the opposite direction, it seems like it's there to kind of snap him out of his more monstrous moments too. We see a couple moments in this episode where he's kind of like he's kind of like shaking it off. Basically, he's trying to like snap himself out of his enraged state. Walker definitely has experienced a fair deal of his own kind of strain and trauma being Captain America, and dealing with the weight of that assignment, I guess. I'm going to come back to Walker later, but so he's kind of shaking this thing off, and he's trying to figure out. Sorry, there's an itch right in my nose. It's driving me crazy. He's trying to figure out what to do. So Carly hops in the second van. So the first van has had everyone freed. The second van is the only set of hostages left. Carly hops in, drives it, and jumps out. So it plows off onto the top of this scaffolding, in construction building, where Bucky and another flag smasher are fighting underneath. And Walker essentially has to decide, do I keep fighting the 3 flag smashers that I've got up here, or do I go after the van? And for sure, Walker from the previous couple episodes, my hair is I just got a haircut yesterday, so my hair is total disaster right now. So the Walker of the rest of the season would have undoubtedly gone after the flag smashers. Here he's just kind of and he actually goes to the second van to try to keep it up there, but he also throws his shield away. He throws the shield down into the construction area, and I don't think he gets it. I don't think he ever takes it back. I think that's it. So someone out there has a great souvenir, the shield and a Medal of Honor. But yeah, no, he throws away the shield, kind of symbolically throwing away his tenure as Captain America, and tries to save the van. It doesn't quite go so well, and he gonna get the flag smashers actually crowd up on him because he's vulnerable while he's doing this. So he actually exposes himself while trying to save others, and gets thrown into the pit with the rest of them. The other flag smashers and him all fall down the scaffolding, and finally Sam manages to arrive because he just finished with the chopper. Arrives, catches the van, and kind of uses his wingsuit to push it back up. You've got some folks on the side. Bucky and Walker are both standing underneath, just kind of watching, and it's a good shot of like them kind of looking small while Sam is looking like really grand and big, and it's like a nice little symbolic sort of moment there of like, yeah, there he goes. There's the hero right there. Boom. You got the crowd on the side who's looking, and they've got their phones out and stuff, and one of us is like, that's a Black Falcon, I tell you, and another one next to him was like, nah, that's Captain America, and they're like, yeah. Very quick little moment there, but it's like, okay, cool. So it's not just Sam. Everybody's like yes, he's Captain America. This is happening. Carly, in some real dirty fighting, though, at this point it's become kind of the norm for her, throws a rebar that seems to be aimed directly to go through the back of Walker's head, and Bucky catches it out of the air. The scene gets gas bombed by Batroc. And, they run underground. Sam and Bucky and Walker run underground. They split up because the bad guys did. And we find out that Sharon is indeed the power broker. Which is like, I don't know. They really did Sharon dirty in this series. Like, I feel like they really went like, well, she went on the run, but despite her tenure with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the CIA, just her life is fucked. There it is. So she's now just like an ultra art thief fencer person, and now she's like the primo terrorist of like the world. So she's like financing a bunch of shit. She's calling up favors and things. Now, granted, we saw her call Batroc in the previous episode, which was a pretty good indicator that like, oh shit, she probably is the power broker, isn't she? And she lives a life of significant luxury in Madripoor, so it definitely isn't all that surprising. It's just kind of a bummer. I was hoping for something a little bit different than that, but Batroc apparently didn't know that she was the power broker, which is interesting because she called him directly and told him what to do, so I don't know what their working relationship was like before that. Also, we got a close-up of her face, and you can see the outline of, I guess Emily Van Camp wears contact lenses. The edges of them are so visible, and I have to wonder what's going on there, because it's like contacts are not supposed to. So I've worn I usually wear glasses nowadays, but I've worn contacts since I was a kid. And the general idea is that a contact lens is supposed to basically cover your, what was it, the iris, the colored part of your eye. And not a ton more, like a teeny bit more, because there's only so accurately they can get the sizes, and you certainly want the contact to cover your iris plus some and not your iris minus some. But it looked like it was out, like it was a good like quarter to like a third-ish of an inch beyond her iris. I'm like, okay, she either had some like really weirdly oversized lenses, or I had to look, because I was like, is she wearing colored contact lenses? Nope, that's her natural eye color. And I was like, okay, are they? I paused the scene, because then I was like, all right, are they going to come back and they're going to do a thing where she's got like color shifting, like she's got her eyes change color for literally any of a number of reasons, and they didn't. And I was like, wow, okay. So I don't know. Her lenses were just noticeable in that close up. If you go back and look, it looks like a blue outline a little extended past her iris. It's so irrelevant to this episode, but it just like, it was enough for me to be like, what happened there? Sharon and Carly have each other at gunpoint. Batroc shows up and has Carly at gunpoint and is like, all right, you're the power broker. You're going to pay me 4 times what I asked for, or I'm going to tell everybody who you are. Sharon's like, yeah, I don't do blackmail, and shoots Batroc, and Carly shoots Sharon. It's unclear if Batroc is dead. He might actually be dead. I'm not entirely positive. So that happens. Sam shows up and fights with Carly. Carly's kind of doing a pretty good job of beating him back. He's not really attacking much. He's on the defense because he's still trying to talk her down. And he does not. She does knock him down at one point, and she's like, "Stay down." And he just kind of gets up, and I'm like, "Are they gonna do the thing? Are they gonna have him do the like I can do this all day, but it's like, no, that's more of like that's slightly aggressive of the like, all right, let's go. This is like more her becoming in some ways the thing that she's trying to fight, and him just like standing up against that. So he just stands up and says no, and it's like, all right, that works. Bucky and Walker get a little clever, and they get the Flag Smasher app, and they use it to trick the remaining Flag Smashers and tell them like, all right, here's the meeting place. And Walker steps out and delivers this weird quote, which he later attributes to Lincoln, and it's very dorky of a moment, and he's just kind of like, mercy does better than true justice kind of thing. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know the line. It was a dumb line. It was very weird. It's interesting to me that to go along with Walker kind of representing a lot of the worse qualities of, the American way and American history and stuff, it's very interesting that he's quoting historical figures of America as well. I feel like that fits neatly into one of the many slots of the more problematic, ways that people utilize American history. I'm like tiptoeing very carefully on this subject because I try not to have us get political at all on this channel if I can avoid it. But this show in particular, like all art is political, but this show in particular is very politically driven in terms of, I guess social politics in particular. And it's a very dense and complex subject matter, and I don't feel qualified to talk at length about some of this stuff, which is also part of the reason I'm kind of dancing around it a little bit. It's like I don't want to get to a point where I'm starting to say things that are above my pay grade, so to speak, because the last thing we need is anybody ignorantly kind of, throwing their 2 cents in where it's not wanted or warranted. So the point being, Walker quoting Lincoln as his like, plan for a badass one-liner is just like an interesting addition to that character, let's say. And I'll leave it at that, I guess. Carly wants Sam to fight back. He doesn't. He even leaves his shield on the ground. She points a gun at him, and I'm not sure what his plan was, but Sharon then shoots her, and she shortly dies thereafter in Sam's arms. Bit of a Pieta pose and everything. So there's that. He kind of floats. He glides down into the scene in the city where like all the cops are and stuff, and he gives Carly to like the paramedics, even though at this point she's almost certainly very dead. You can hear reporters trying to ask Sam questions, and one of them asks, "Is it Captain Falcon?" Which I thought was a cute little thing to have in there. More so because I'm a big video game dork, so Captain Falcon as a Nintendo character is a funny thing to reference there. It does also serve a double purpose of still further entrenching the idea that some people are having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that Sam is just Captain America. Like, flatly, that is who he is. He's not, it's Black Captain America or, Captain Falcon or any of that stuff. It's like, no, he is Captain America. That is what he is. That is his title. That is his role. So no, he is not Captain Falcon. He has an interesting discussion with the GRC members about, what it is directly about is the way that we label our others, the way that we label people that we don't agree with or we don't like. And he's, or just in general, people whose experiences we don't know and we don't experience ourselves. Who is like, you're calling them terrorists, but are they terrorists or are they refugees or are they this or are they that? And like, it's an interesting conversation. I do have a few bits to talk about it, but also my notes go on for a surprisingly decent amount of time there of just this conversation, because it does chew up a couple minutes. At least it feels like a couple minutes. It might only be like 2 minutes, but it really does go on for a while, to the point where I'm like, man, one, it's like I get that we're trying to like really drive it home, but like, man, I get it. I think we can move on from the scene now, kind of thing. It's a very on the note. Again, this is what I was talking about at the start of this episode's review, is like the dialogue is very blunt in this episode. Like it is very like matter of fact and in your face, and like there it is. That's the thing that I'm saying. Which like isn't necessarily the worst thing. Sometimes we need a direct, blatant, blunt thing to be said. But I don't know. It was a little jarring on this episode. Maybe because the dialogue didn't feel quite so on the nose in previous ones. I don't know. But every time I pick this thing up, meaning the shield, I know there's millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it, which again is indicative of a lot of things. It is both, again, a less than subtle reference to when Sam became Captain America in the comics, which, by the way, his Captain America suit here is nearly identical to his comics version of the Captain America suit. Very, very similar. I think they did a cool job with it. I thought it was great. I like that the goggles, I guess those would be goggles, are still like a main part of that, because he's kind of had those the whole time, and it's kind of a nice anchor for the suit. It gives him a very like defined kind of look in general, regardless of what the suit he's wearing is. He's got the ab stripes that Cap had in, which one was it? It might have been for Winter Soldier, actually, when he took back his... No, because in that one he has the black suit, and then he's got the classic suit. So maybe Infinity War. I don't know. I'm trying to remember, but he has the little ab stripes that I thought were kind of cool. Maybe that's the Avengers. That might be the Avengers. And also, obviously, it's a reference to... I mean, it's not a reference. It's not... That's diminishing the point of it. It's a statement, not a reference. It's a statement on, everything, I guess. I don't know how to describe it in a way that's not going to triple the length of this video, but yeah, there's obviously people who are going to take issue with this, from this show to, Sam Wilson being Captain America in the comics / the movies, to Anthony Mackie as a person playing the role of Captain America. Wyatt Russell apparently has gotten shitloads of hate mail and threats, apparently, over his portrayal of John Walker, which is not acceptable ever. That's a horrible thing to do to a person. He's a fucking actor, and he's playing a role that he was hired to play, and he's playing it well, and people are threatening his life over it. So that's scummy and shitty and terrible. And I would not be surprised at all if Anthony Mackie was dealing with some very similar level of shit over all of this too. And I think the show does a good job of kind of like staring that down and directly kind of confronting that mindset and being like, tough shit. That's, welcome to the world. This is how it's going to work. Sam Wilson is Captain America, and you can't stop that. Like, that's how this is going to go. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't want to delve too deep into this because I'm not an expert, and it doesn't feel like it's my place to make, large or sweeping or generalized statements on this kind of stuff, especially for a haha YouTube video. But again, this is perhaps the most politically driven, work that the MCU has generated so far. Yeah, I would say so. I'm trying to think of if there's any that come close. The only ones that are even in the same sphere at all would be like, Winter Soldier kind of got into, the, espionage state and like the hyper political, information wars. Captain Marvel delved into, the trenches of like sexism. Black Panther got into racism a little bit, but it didn't get into it like very much at all, because it was coming a lot from, it was more of it got into like colonialism a bit more than like actual like racism and thoughts like that. Whereas this one does delve into that a lot, and it delves into, xenophobia a bunch too, with like how the repatriation council is like really fucking things up and dropping the ball and generating more distress, I guess. But again, I don't want to go too far into I feel myself kind of slipping into wanting to talk about it, but I feel like it's something that, again, is like not really my place to get into. So we'll move on. He does say another like showing that he's kind of like taken a lot of the discussions that he's had into heart. Sam says like, that he essentially, along with his like, I am Captain America, was like, there's no super serum, there's no blonde hair or blue eyes. Like this is me. I'm Captain America kind of thing. It's like, we all have to work together was kind of the ultimate message here, is like, you guys make these decisions in a room with people who are like you. You don't have people who aren't like you in there. So you just kind of make these decisions because that's what serves the interests of the people in the room, kind of deal, which was a valuable kind of point there too. We get a shot of Torres. Joaquin Torres is watching the news. So the news, is broadcasting all the stuff that's going on. And so they're seeing live this discussion that he's having with GRC members. And I was pleasantly surprised that Torres didn't turn out to be a bad guy, because in that first episode, there was just a little bit of like hinting of like the way that he was being shot in his early chunks of his appearances. I was like, I don't know about this guy. Is he going to secretly be like a flag smasher or something? And I'm like, no. Okay. So he wound up being a good guy through to the end. Oh yeah. And Bucky, in a very simple sort of like, affirmative bit of support to him after that conversation's over, they walk away and it's like, nice job, Cap. And it's like, oh, there we go. It's such a little simple kind of like, yep, confirming for you for sure. Like this is you. Sam goes off to find, I guess there was a flag smasher that fell into the Hudson. So Sam goes off to deal with that. We don't see it happen, but the last couple of flag smashers are being loaded into a van to be offloaded to the raft. They were originally headed for Rikers, and they're like, nope, these guys are too dangerous. They got to go to the raft, especially since they're super powered at this point too, right? Like, would Rikers actually be able to handle them? As they do so, the Navy officer, it's weird. He was dressed more like a SWAT guy, but he had a U.S. Navy like logo, like thing going on there. Says, one world, one people, which is, the whole Hail Hydra style slogan for them. It's like, oh fuck, there's even more of these people. So they close it up and it drives off and then explodes. And you see on the side that on a hillside nearby is Zemo's butler, who's just sitting there and is like, yep, all right, there we go. So Zemo had the rest of the flag smashers killed, which is definitely, like, on the one hand, plot-wise, it wraps that up with a neat bow. On the other hand, it's still proving that Zemo is willing to do some dark shit for his own means, because at the end of the day, he wants the super soldiers all dead, and he is still a bad guy. And, not all of the, like, earlier in the episode, you see that Carly's own people are starting to, like, falter, and they're losing their faith in her. And there's a bit of redeemable... There's a somewhat redeemable quality in them being like, I don't know, but they also don't really stop her either. They don't stop her. They don't do anything off the plan, and then they die. So yeah, that's a little, again, a bit of a blunt dealing with that. So then we come to a scene where we've got Val again. Remember Elaine, Julie Louis-Dreyfus? Yeah, she's hanging out with John Walker's wife in the same chamber where he was stripped of his rank and all of that. Apparently this is their one room that represents the entire Senate, I guess, because they use it again later in the episode. I should mention, when I say later in the episode, I mean it. The final fight happens about 30 minutes into the episode, and then the last 20 minutes, or I guess the last 15 minutes, are all like epilogue and denouement and coda and all of this stuff. And it's like, wow, we're spending a long time on the offload portion of this. So Val is there with Walker's wife. Walker steps out and he's got a new uniform, and it's basically, and he even comments on this, that it's basically the outfit that he had before as Captain America, except it's black and the stripes are more prominently red and white. The A is no longer visible on his head, though it's still, the buckle is still basically the A on his vest. Val says things are about to get weird, which is interesting. I don't know who this character is. I thought she was going to be actually relevant to this show, and then she kind of wasn't. It was a very weird thing there. But so Val says, like, when things really, when the shit really hits the fan, we're not going to need a Captain America. We're going to need a U.S. agent. Which is like, it's like, there are clumsier ways to deliver a name for a character's title, but like that's up there for sure. He seems kind of twitchy even here, like it's like, oof. All right, so he's still not doing so well. He's still very much fidgety and weird. So there's that. Bucky goes to visit Yori. He tells him the truth. It cuts away, and the scene closes out in a way where it's like he goes inside and he tells him, like, your son was murdered. He was killed by the Winter Soldier, and the Winter Soldier was me. And we don't see what the reaction is. We see him walk out and the door closes, and it's hard to tell if it's Bucky closing the door or the door being closed behind him, and he walks away. We don't see the resolution of it, so it's left ambiguous. I forget if I had actually called that was going to be how they handled it, that they were going to leave it ambiguous whether Yori was angry with him or if he was like, more thank you for telling me the truth, time for me to mourn kind of response, but we don't really see how that goes. But he leaves the book to his therapist, which has every name in the book crossed out except for Yori's, who is circled. So it's a nice little bit there. Sam goes to visit Isaiah Bradley, who at one point just kind of lifts up a potted bonsai-looking tree, which I can't imagine is super light, but he lifts it effortlessly, which is a nice little kind of nod to like, yep, he's got the serum. He's just using it for pretty mundane things. And Sam is like, you guys should come with me. And Isaiah and his grandson, I don't think it's nephew. I forget if it was nephew or grandson, brings them to the Captain America exhibit where there stands a brand new statue. It looks like maybe brass. I figured it might be bronze, but I think it's more brass statue of Isaiah and a like an engraved thing next to it explaining the story of Isaiah Bradley and like all of this stuff, and is like, now they're never going to forget you. They will never forget, you and what you gave to all of us into this country. And it was kind of a nice moment to like really commemorate him and make sure that like that his life wasn't erased. And Isaiah is, gives him a, big hug and is kind of shaken, and, it's a big thing, and it's a nice, thing for that to end with as we get the final title, the final show title closing, and it says Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which was kind of like, oh, that's neat. And then in the credits, you go through the whole credits in the very end where it has Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It also says Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And I'm wondering, between that and the fact that Sharon Carter, again in that same Senate room, is pardoned. She's offered a pardon, which she accepts, and is given, essentially is told that, like, your old position may still be waiting for you as well, meaning like her in the CIA. And so she accepts all of that and continues to be the power broker. She makes a call and is like, we're about to have access to a whole bunch more shit. So I'm wondering if there's a chance they're going to run with either are they going to run with a season 2 of this show? And if they do, will it be called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or more than likely Captain America and the Winter Soldier? Since they ended this season with that, I think it'd be kind of nice if it was Captain America and the Winter Soldier, if they did that. Is there going to be some kind of movie that they continue this with? Because if you look at the... So I had pulled up a list of the TV shows and the movies because I was kind of wondering, like, where could they go with these characters at this point? And it's like, all right, scrolling through the list of movies, none of them really seem like they would make sense as a continuation of this story. Black Widow set in the past, Shang-Chi, Eternals aren't really going to have much to do with anything that's going on here. Spider-Man No Way Home is really unlikely, and that's in New York, and is going to be... I guess this is also in New York, But yeah, Spider-Man's got his own shit to deal with. Doctor Strange is dealing with multiverse stuff. Thor is dealing with a whole bunch of shit. He's not going to be dealing with New York. Black Panther 2 is more than likely going to be like Wakanda-based. Captain Marvel 2, that's a big question mark. But again, Captain Marvel seems like she's going to be dealing with a lot bigger shit than this. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. It's going to be dealing with probably some like weird timeline stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Fantastic Four, also probably not going to deal with any of this stuff. So if you look at the shows, I scrolled through the list of the shows, and there are 3 shows in 2023 that may potentially be a connection here. One is, Secret Invasion. I'm surprised. I'm actually stunned that they're doing it as a show and not as a movie. Because that's like the one thing that that big fans of the MCU have been begging to be a movie for like this entire time. So it's wild that they're going with that as a show. But also it's like, I don't know that I don't think they're going to connect this through that. That's going to be a weird series, but that seems to be what Nick Fury's about to launch into as of the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. There's Ironheart, which maybe, I don't know. It really depends on like what they're doing with, I assume it's going to be Riri Williams, but it's a question of like what her origin story is going to be. I personally subscribed to the theory that she was going to be someone who was helped out by like, who is living in like Oakland and is, what the hell did they name the center? It's just like the Wakanda Outreach Center or whatever, but like the essentially school that they kind of build in Oakland at the end of Black Panther. Like maybe there's a connection there. I don't know. I don't know a ton about Riri Williams. So as we find out more information, there's a possibility there. I don't know. The other one being Armor Wars. And the reason for that being Armor Wars is a show that is supposed to be focused at least partly, if not primarily, on Rhodey, who appears in the first episode of this series. And especially if the idea is that Sharon Carter, as the power broker, is now in the CIA and has infiltrated very Hydra style. Also very interesting that she's essentially become her own Hydra after literally the reason that she got like knocked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. because of Hydra, and she got knocked out of the CIA because, she was involving herself in a situation where Bucky was still being kind of considered like an offshoot from like a leftover remnant of Hydra and like all this stuff. And it's a big mess. But if she has access to a bunch more shit than she would have before within the U.S. government, Rhodey is still tied in with the Air Force. So it's entirely possible that, the War Machine armor is, or, whether it's one or many, there could be a stockpile of them that he has just in case, especially with Tony being dead. I'm wondering if Armor Wars is going to potentially be a sequel to this series that brings back Sam and Bucky. So I don't know. Either, my biggest guesses are it is either going to continue in Armor Wars, which is probably going to be a late 2023 series, or they're going to greenlight a second series called Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and that'll also be like a 2023 or 2024 series. I don't know which it's going to be. So I like this episode in general. I like it less than the previous episode, but I like the way they kind of like, I like that they wrapped things up. I feel like it's a slightly better episode than 5 because it doesn't feel quite as disjointed, but it is a little less, I don't know. I've got issues with this episode in terms of like pacing especially, but also just kind of, the dialogue is a little clunky and some of the characters are very abruptly written out. And I don't know. I give this episode a 7. I don't know. I'm so conflicted on this. I feel like the things I like and disliked are stronger in both directions than the previous episode, which I guess is why it kind of averages out to the same ranking. But I think that's where I'm going to land with this. And if you look across the entire series, as far as my rankings, you can see that it's kind of like it started low. It's the lowest. The first episode of this is the lowest ranking I've given to any of these episodes so far, but it jumped up all the way to 9 and then kind of leveled out. So it kind of like it's going to be coming from this side, but it kind of went whoop and then like not like it went down a ton, but like it went up and then kind of like skidded out. The build up over episodes 2 through 4 was really good, and then it felt like it never quite captured that same intensity for the last 2 episodes, which is I think why those both wound up as a 7. Between the 2 shows, I don't know which I like more. I think I like WandaVision slightly more. I think it used the format of a television serialized, show better. I think it had a simpler motif, which isn't necessarily better. I think, or a theme. I think this one had a more meaningful theme to it. But I think I don't know. It's hard. Maybe part of the problem is that it's such a complex issue and they had to make it fit in a 5-hour block with, while also making an action series at the same time. I don't know. I think I would say I like WandaVision just a teeny bit better than this. I'm curious how the other shows go. It's going to be a little while before our next one of these because Loki comes out on June 11th. So we've got about, 6 weeks, I think? 6 weeks between now and then. And yeah, they've got nothing else really happening between there. We were supposed to get Black Widow on the 5th. Not on the 5th, on the 7th, I think, but that's got pushed back to July 9th, I want to say. So that should be, I'm actually going to check right now. I have my little calendar app here. So there's 11th, there's supposed to be 6 episodes of Loki, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually going to happen before Loki's over, which is kind of interesting. The day the 5th episode goes up of Loki is going to be the day the Black Widow comes out, so that should be interesting. But yeah, so Loki is June 11th, so you can expect some reviews then. I've got a few things I want to do between now and then to kind of flesh out some of the things that I've been doing for like Marvel stuff on the channel. One of these days, I'd like to take a look at DC's properties just because, I don't know, I've watched so little of them, but what little I have seen of them has not really thrilled me. And this isn't like a Marvel versus DC thing. I think that it really depends the mood you're in. Like that day is going to define which content you like better. I think just in general, DC kind of has a tone problem, and I don't necessarily mean like, oh, they're not doing it right. I think it's more consistency of tone. I don't think they know what they want. They really need a Kevin Feige style hand on the wheel. And I think they tried that with Jeff Johns, I think, but I don't know how that's gone. And also there's some rather serious endemic issues that are going on over at Warner Brothers and DC that we've been, hearing more about, which I don't know, maybe a couple people over there could do with watching this series and trying to take a few internalized notes, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, so one of these days I'd like to take a look at the DC shows and see, or not the show. Well, I mean, the shows are a whole different thing, but the DC movies and kind of, see how those go. Because like a bad movie can have good parts, and a movie that has bad parts isn't necessarily a bad movie. So like, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I've gone way off topic. I should wrap this thing up. I definitely recommend this show for sure. Could this be made into a movie? This one has a better shot of being made into a movie than WandaVision does, for sure. I think there are ways to condense portions of this to make it make sense in a movie format. Like there are definitely whole encounters and scenes that can be stripped away to make this one make more sense. I think it would be possible. I was going to say easy and then was like, not easy, but I think it might be possible to squeeze this series down into 3 hours. The question is, how much more fat can be stripped away at that point? Like, could it be brought down to like 2 hours and 15 minutes or something? And it's like, I don't really know about that, especially with kind of the dialogue and the discourse and the, kind of thoughtful conversations on otherness, I guess, in this country and in the world. So I don't know. I don't really know. It probably can't be. Let's go with that. It probably can't be turned into a movie. It would be a very different movie for sure. And maybe the more on the nose dialogue would fit better if they had less time. Maybe that's the problem, is they had 5 hours and it's like you could have done with a bit more nuance to make this work, but who knows? I don't know. Thank you for watching. I should really wrap this up. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed these reviews. This is now the 15th one of these that I've done in roughly 12 weeks. I forget when the first one for WandaVision went up, but I was playing catch up for a little while. But I hope you enjoyed these. I'd love to hear your comments on the finale for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the series overall. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this review and this review series overall. I'm still kind of figuring out, how I go about this stuff. It's very off the cuff. I'm sure you can tell this is unscripted. And I'm trying to be a little less, it's very much a crutch, and probably indicative of what kind of reviews I used to watch before I started doing reviews of my own, that I'm trying to stop just walking down the episode and explaining what happens. And I did it in this video too, but I'm trying to compartmentalize themes and discussions and things and kind of, go into those as tangents, not even tangents because they're like the whole point of the discussion, but trying to figure out the format. I think I'm starting to get there a little bit better, but I got a ways to go. So I'd love to hear some feedback on this as well. Feel free to like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm planning to do them for Loki and for What If should be fun. I don't know what that's going to feel like, but I'm planning to basically do these for all of these shows because I enjoy watching them. Takes an hour out of my day to, my reviews tend to be roughly the same length, maybe a teeny bit longer than the actual original thing. So that all depends there too. But I like these. I've been enjoying them pretty well. And honestly, I'll probably be even more energized to talk about these if I don't like them, because that would be a pretty serious departure from what I'm used to for these shows where I do like them. So I don't know. Yeah, I got to stop rambling. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next show. I'll see you for Loki in June. Have a good spring, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye.